So what are flight computers good for?
Okay, speed of flight. Speed of flight. Tell them what gravity speeds are.
Tells you where the turn point is, first turn point.
Yeah. And how to get out.
Line of light.
Actually, they give you a pretty good wind with enough good data where you are.
Location's good if you've outlanded.
Yeah.
So I suppose.
Airspace.
Airspace.
Statistics.
Statistics.
Yeah. Where you do too early or too late or.
Whether you're going to arrive back at the airfield, did you say?
According to your plan, where you are spending, pick your own time for the task.
Yeah, I guess ETA is a good one, isn't it? Especially for AATs, same sort of thing.
They will suggest AAT turning points or AAT plans based on your,
Yeah, well that's part of navigation,
Yeah.
so including AATs. Anything else they're good for? I think that's about it. I'd say these things are useful. These things are useful after the flight. These things are of no use at all. Sorry, Sid. Now the speed to fly you should be getting from somewhere else, not from your PDA. Okie dokie. One thing that is also, I don't know whether to put it as no use at all or of little use, is the terrain, in my opinion. If you want to see what the terrain is, look out the window. Don't clutter up the screen on your PDA. Okie dokie. So it is useful for a few things. What is it not going to help you with? It's not going to help you thermally. Sorry, John. Not going to help you thermally.
We'll find one.
So if it's got a thermal assistant, make sure it's turned off. It won't find a thermal for you, that's correct. So finding thermals.
What about taking you back to the last thermal though?
Yeah, it is useful for that, showing, so the, what do they call it? The tail. I think it's called a tail. It shows you plots where you've been. We'll call it a tail. So it shows you where you've been, which is good sometimes, yes.
Fly a lot when you're a different height, it doesn't sort of work too well.
Yep. Okie dokie. So how often do you have to look at your navigation thing on your PDA?
once every turn point. Once every turn point.
Yeah, you need to look at it near the turn points occasionally.
I look at the distance, and just see if my timing's on track, because I'm always doing the numbers in my head all the time.
Yeah.
So
After each turn, you're going to have to have a look, see where your turn point is.
Yeah, make sure you get your direction about right. Pick a marker out the front so you can fly to it.
Yep.
Yeah, so you look at that occasionally for specific items. Final glide you look at when you're getting near final glide occasionally. You look at the wind occasionally. Airspace is important, depending where you are. Your ETA is very occasional, and this very occasional. So all of these things are only occasionally. You don't look at it very often. There's no point looking at it very often. It's not going to make you go any faster.
I reckon there's a bit of a trap with the navigation in that it tells you, 2 degrees right and that you tend to fly down a line. If you didn't have that, I reckon you'd be more conscious of flying to better conditions and better ground conditions than you would when you're flying down a line.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a bit of a trap. You can get drawn to watching it, to looking at it, when you don't need to look at it. Once you know which direction you've got to go, pick a point on the horizon, in the distance, and fly to that point. Don't look at the navigator. Okay, so there's a list of things that that I think should be on the flight computer or PDA or whatever you want to call it. On this one, you've always got the aircraft symbol. This is a picture I've taken of mine, so I guess that's how I have mine set up. So you've got the aircraft, your aircraft. You've got the scale, so that's 0.2 of a kilometre there. So I have it on this one on thermaling, comes up automatically.
Why are you flying squares?
Sorry?
Why do you fly squares?
It's recorded every 4 seconds. So these data points are 4 seconds apart. It draws a straight line between them. So there's 4 or 5 data points per circle. 5, I guess.
I guess it's handy when you're at your turn point now, you want to blow that right up, so you make sure you're around the point. It'd be awful to be,
well, you don't need to blow it up, it does it automatically.
yeah.
So we've got the north arrow, this one here. The airspace you can see on the others, you can't see it on this one. The turn points you can see on the others, not on this one. I can't. The task is on there, that's the task line there. The track line is on there, so this is the track that we're following, and I always have the track pointing up the page, not facing along the north arrow. So this is really always fixed straight up the screen. So the image I see on my UDI is the same as the image I see when I look out the window. So I don't see Tammin here on my UDI and somewhere else when I look out the window. They're in the same location, so I don't get confused. The track trail, which is this thing here. Now it's very useful to show that because you'll notice that when I'm thermaling, I'm drifting this way, and the wind arrow is pretty much parallel with that. So I've got some confidence that it's giving me the right wind direction because I can see this is roughly parallel to that. The wind arrow is there with speed and direction, and the final glide data is there.
Why is that showing 61 degrees? It should be 250-ish, 240-ish.
North is down.
North is down.
North arrow is this way, so we're heading roughly south.
Sorry, yep, of course, sorry.
Now with the final glide, one thing you've got to be wary of is it works on the finish height that you set for it. So you've got to somewhere in the finish height, and it will give you the final glide to that height. I set mine on basically 0, the airfield height, except that if the finish line is 3 kilometres from the airfield, I'll set that to 300 feet, because I need about 300 feet to do 3 kilometres. So the margin I set on the final glide is something that I add. I don't have the margin set into the flight computer, so I've got to add it. Anyway, I'll get to more on that later. Okay, so that's the stuff that's on the map itself. I don't have the terrain turned on because it clutters up the map. and you can look out the window to see what the terrain
But
is.
it's pretty.
Yes, yes.
It is a problem with the Udi. There are so many boxes you can have up there, and I learned real quick, just get rid of them all. You know, because there's paint.
There's a lot of info boxes, there's probably hundreds. So these are the info boxes that I use, and it's not duplicating what I can already see on the instruments. So I don't have my height on there because I've got an altimeter. I don't have my airspeed on there because I've got an airspeed indicator, etc. So I only put on what's really going to be useful for you that you don't already have. The task ETA is very useful, especially if you are concerned that you may not finish the task, you may not get back before the thermals run out or before last light. So this is quite useful. And you'll notice with these pictures as we go through them, that it's always showing about 3:20 finish time. So this, actually I didn't list this climb rate. This climb rate is tangled up with the final gliding uni, but this is the climb rate setting for the remainder of the flight. So on this particular flight, I'm expecting to get 4 knots average for the rest of the flight. The uni only goes 3.9 and 4.1, that flight's on 4.1. And it's also showing that I need another 18,000 feet to finish the task from where I am now, based on a 4-knot climb rate. So the task ETA, the track is this one here. So that's where it thinks the glider's heading across the ground. No, that's not right. It's this one here, isn't it? This is the track. The track is always straight up the plane.
That's the next turn point.
The bearing to the next turn point is here. The distance to the next turn point is here. The next turn point is Narrogin Town, by the way, on this task. At the moment, I've got to turn 23 degrees left to get on track. The only reason I show that is that if I'm doing a deviation for some reason, if I'm deviating to a cloud or to another glider thermally, it gives me a reasonable idea of how far off track I'm going. So if I find I'm going 45 degrees off track, then I might abandon it and go back on track.
Because you had those scales you had before,
Yeah.
based on that.
So that's just to show me how much I'm deviating if I'm heading off track for some reason.
And the little arrows pointing to the left.
Yeah. So I've got to turn 23 degrees left here to get back on track. That's the track there. So that's pointing directly at the turn point. This is the task LD. This is useful on final glide, something I learned from G. Dale. So at the moment, if I had a glide ratio of 166, I wouldn't need to take another thermal, and I'd get back to the airfield at ground level. The delta T is only useful for AATs. This is not an AAT, it's a fixed task, so this is meaningless. But if it was an AAT, this would tell me I'm 20 minutes over. It thinks I'm 20 minutes over time or something like that, which is perfect. This is the average climb rate for the current thermal. So at the moment, from here to here, I've been getting 6.9 knots. And when I leave this thermal, it keeps showing that figure so that I know what the last thermal climb rate was.
Sorry, at that particular moment in time, what is the benefit of that DLD? What you getting?
This one?
Yeah.
There's no benefit at the moment, it's only for use on final glide. So I don't think you need to have any more information than that. I see lots of people have their PDAs, flight computers set up with lots and lots of stuff that's just cluttering up the
The
screen.
straight line going up the top, what is that a north-south line or what is
This line here,
Yeah.
That's his current track.
that's my current track,
Oh,
which is always straight up the plane. So the whole map rotates
Yeah.
to make sure this is straight up the plane.
So you line that up to the purple line, basically.
If it's lined up with the purple line,
That will be
then I'm
straight up
heading
there.
directly at the turn point. But of course, if I've got a crosswind, I might want to line it up a bit left of that direction to allow for my drifting thermal. as is happening here.
Are you not interested in the equivalency of thermal rates? You know, upwind and downwind as a word, so next leg is downwind leg, let's say, and you can afford to take a thermal which is not, you know, not as strong as a word.
Well, it's not something that your PDA is going to tell you.
Mine does.
I don't know how it would do that. I mean, if I'm averaging 4 knots on this climb, and the next leg is into wind, what you're saying is, if I'm near the turn point and I strike 1 knot, do I take it?
Yes, exactly.
Or do I turn the corner?
Or do I wait for the next leg?
Yeah, or do I turn the corner and get 4 knots with a 14 knot headwind? Well, I don't know that your PDA is going to tell you that. Maybe yours does.
How?
I can see how it works.
It just does the computation basically, you know, based on the wind.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe mine will do that too, but I haven't noticed that.
And Craig, any particular reason why you keep the item for the final line in the bottom right corner?
This one?
Yeah.
Just so it's out of the way off the screen. So all the information is down here, where it's not getting in the way of what's happening in front of the glider.
Owen wants to know what the 21X is.
Okay, just ignore that. That doesn't exist. It's on there because I was replaying a flight to get these pictures. So it's doing a replay on the Unity, so it's a simulation.
Replay.
So it's just a replay.
It's not going to tell you.
How come you don't have ground speed up there so you can compare it with airspeed to know whether you're getting a help or a hindrance?
Or what would be the use of that? I mean, I know what the wind is. It's here. I know what my airspeed is. It's on the airspeed indicator.
It might give you a warm feeling, but that's about all it can do at the end of the day.
It does give me either a warm or a chilling feeling.
So Rick, you don't worry about having your average speed for the task up there, or do you have that?
No, I don't have that. What's that going to? What use is that while I'm flying?
Well, you could say, I must go faster. I'm hanging around in these circles too long.
Yeah, but
I guess the
not if you're
equivalent,
flying by your polar, you know, that's the thing, you know.
the equivalent information is my estimated arrival time, which is based on this climb rate and this wind.
So do you need your track box on there?
Track.
You've got your box for your track there, you know, 190.
He's got a track line and he's got a...
Why would you need that and you've got your line up there?
Only if I'm trying to tell somebody where I am.
Just for situational awareness, I suppose. To know that you're going
I'm not using it because I can see it. It's only if I want to tell someone. Sometimes you've got to say where you are. So that's the only reason. It's really of no use in flying.
So that 4.1 there, I mean, you've entered that manually, have you? Do you prefer
Yes,
that
I
manually?
enter that, yes.
Yes, right. And you prefer that to automatic?
Well, if you use the automatic thing, it tells you what has happened, but you might better know what's going to happen.
Might be getting hotter, you know.
And not every thermal's the same. You might take a 3-nighter and a 5-nighter and they're all over the place. So you've got to, I guess, say what you think is going to be the figure for the rest of the flight. So it's a prediction,
Yes.
it's not a history.
And as you get lower in hot pen, you're going to reduce it anyway.
Yeah.
Greg,
Yep.
do you ever find it useful to have those blue dots named? Because sometimes you're flying along, you just want some reassurance that that place down there is in fact, you know, the place you think it is.
You want to zoom in a bit, the names do come up. I just have the first 3 letters of the name.
Right.
But yeah, you can set the zoom level at which the names come up.
Greg, can I just divert 1 second? That distance there, that's to the finish, that's to the edge of the 3 kilometre circle, isn't it?
Well, in this case, it's the distance to Narrabeen.
Yeah.
Narrabeen
But
Silo.
if you were coming home, that'd be the distance to the edge of the circle,
Yep,
not to Beverley Airfield.
yep.
Now that was where Jeff Rove and I had a lot of trouble finding Tom Holt, who told us he was 2.5 kilometres out, but in fact, he was 5.5, that was to the edge of the circle. That's not telling you how far home.
Well, it's telling me to the turn point.
Yeah, if you do a track, you know that way off from Benny or from Narrabeen, you know, you've got that circle in there as well.
Why would you set your final glide on 0 to arrive at the airfield instead of the height that you want to?
Why would you be circuit height or something?
Okay, well, you always need to have a margin, don't you? And the margin might vary from day to day, for one reason or another. So if I put a margin in there automatically, say 500 feet, then, and tomorrow I want it to be different, then I've got to be adding or subtracting to 500 feet, so that I know what the real number is. So if I put it on 0, then I'll never have any adding up or subtracting to do. I just manually add the margin that I want for that
At the last
day.
thermal.
Yeah.
Why would it vary the height that you want to arrive?
Conditions.
Yeah, conditions. On some days you might want to have a bigger margin than on other days.
You might have a nice tailwind, and when you're going home, and you thought, well, I'm going to probably go a lot better than I think now.
If you've got a very long, skinny final glide, you might want to work on a bigger margin.
Yeah, but I mean, if your margin is say 800 feet over the airfield, you mean on another day you may want to be 1,000 feet over the airfield?
Depending on the direction, the way you're coming.
If it's not working that well for you, you know, you'd be thinking, this is a bit dodgy, I'll just put a few more 100 feet in there. So instead of wondering what you have got in there, just add it to whatever it is.
Or at the Nationals, they have a straight-in approach, so you don't need height for circle. All you've got to do is slow down and land straight ahead. So you don't want an 800 foot margin or a 500 foot margin, because you've only got to follow your air brakes. I mean, you still need some margin, so you use your air brakes at the end, but not as much as if you're doing a circuit. Okay, those two pictures, one is shown for thermaling, the thing automatically zooms in, and the other one is shown for cruising, where it changes the scale to match the distance to the waypoint. So as you get closer, the scale gets closer.
Is that your second screen on the right?
No, it's the same screen taken
in.
some distance later. So this one is 76 kilometres to Narrabeen, this one is 74 kilometres to Narrabeen. So I've just left the thermal. You can see the last thermal average from bottom to top was 6.4 knots, so that was a good one.
And I think the top left number, it tells you a screen number. What?
Yeah, you can have two different screens. I normally just have them on one screen, because you've got to manually change between the screens. So on the second screen I have different data, which normally you don't have to look at.
So you're not using a second screen?
Hardly ever.
What flight computer is this?
It's an Udi.
Sorry, Greg, you fundamentally just toggle between basically the same screen but at two different resolutions.
Yeah, that's right.
One for cruise and one for climb.
Yeah, that's right, and it does that toggling automatically. I don't have to touch it. An XC saw will do the same thing. They're not very good at calculating the wind. They give you a reasonable guide. So, especially when you're doing final glide, keep in mind that the wind that it's using to calculate the final glide may not be that accurate. So that's another reason to change your margin to suit the level of confidence you have in the wind calculation. If there's no wind on the day, well, you can be fairly accurate. If it's 20 knots, who knows what it is?
Is this the same applied to
15,
the
25.
smarter varios that do, I've got a B500, so it calculates a wind. Same thing, it's only reading GPS. So.
Yeah, the B500 will calculate an average wind from the top to bottom to top of your climb. And that's good. I've got a B500 as well, and I think it's quite good. This thing, unfortunately, the UDI, calculates the wind in different bands and uses all those different bands. So if your first climb is from 1,000 feet to 4,000 feet, unless you come back below 4,000 feet and do another climb, it'll use that wind all day, including final glide. So it doesn't get adjusted unless you come back down.
So would you manually put the B500 figure into the UDI? Or?
No, I don't, but I also do the final glide on the B500.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I think is better, is more reliable. And that's a reason to have this LD in there. We'll get to final glides in a minute. In fact, we may as well get to it now. So those are the two screens, and it toggles between them automatically. Final glide. So this is the same information again, but now we're on final glide. We're not quite on final. On this one, we are 1,376 feet below final glide for a wind setting of 4 knots and 0 margin at the airfield. So really I need another 2,000 feet at least before I think I'm on final glide.
And you're 29 kilometers to the arrival point.
Yeah, 29 kilometres away. And you notice the LD, and this is where the LD becomes useful. The LD now, the required LD is 69 to 1. So I know I can't get 69 to 1 unless I've got a very strong tailwind. And I know I need another couple of thousand feet. So I'm not on final glide yet. Then I hit a thermal, 28 kilometres out from Beverley. That's from the finished circle. And I've set my final glide for 300 feet at the finished circle, which is the same as 0 at the airfield. Because that 3 kilometres needs 300 feet. So now I'm climbing at 5 knots, which is great, and I'm only 700 odd feet below a no margin final glide. And I keep on climbing, and I've left the thermal here, and I've got 700 feet up the sleeve, and I'm 26 k's out, and the glide ratio is 28 to 1. Now as I'm getting closer and closer, I can monitor this glide ratio. It's really useful because as you go up and down in lift and sink, this figure changes quite a bit. You know, your margin changes quite a bit, but your glide ratio required doesn't change much at all. So if I'm getting closer and maintaining my margin, then this glide ratio required gets less and less, and I'm happy. If this glide ratio starts increasing, then I know I'm getting below that glide slope, and I might have to slow down and take another climb or something. So this is good information, but it varies rapidly. This is good information and varies slowly. And GDAL recommends having this, and I have found it quite useful since I've added it. And you notice that all through, we've got around about the same predicted finish time. 3:23, 3:24, 3:25 there. And back on the first leg, it was saying 3:20. So it hasn't varied much through the whole flight.
On that final glide, do you also do like a mental calculation? Like you look at your altimeter and you say, at this distance I want about 3,600 feet to get that?
No, not really. Not really, because I've got this and also the B500. And with the B500 I can manually set the headwind that I want it to use. So I can set a conservative headwind. Whereas on this it's difficult. You can do it, but it's difficult. So on the B500 it's very easy to dial in the headwind that you want, and also it gives you an instantaneous headwind. So it calculates the difference between your true airspeed and your ground speed, and gives you a real headwind. You can then make sure that the headwind it's using for final glide is bigger than your actual true current headwind. So I guess with those two systems I don't need to do a mental calculation on it, which is hard to do because you've got headwind and tailwind and so on to throw into
Blind faith.
So when you're on that final glide right there, how do you determine what speed to fly?
I'm flying on a 4-knot ring setting. So if I go back to my other chart, here, I'm flying at 80 knots. Or if I've got water ballast, I'm flying at 92 knots.
And then just monitoring your either your lift drag or your height, final glide height.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Monitoring this. And if I find I'm getting a bit low, I guess I can say, well, if I keep in mind that at 4 knots I've got a glide ratio of 32 to 1, then I'm not going to make it. I can increase my glide ratio by slowing down to 67 knots. I can increase it to 39 to 1. Which is no wind.
And on the last,
So that's something you've got up your sleeve if you need to.
and on your last window, you could see you only need 28 to 1.
So I have this chart in the glider so I can quickly see what to do. Yeah, but look, sometimes you'll gain height on the final glide, sometimes you lose it and you've got to take another final thermal.